Mic is quick. The mic check, mic check. Anywhere there.
Everybody knows everybody.
Yeah, that's the absolutely. For $1, we can do that. Appreciate it. I know you guys have like.
Hi.
I know you guys have done like the more metaphysical, interesting stuff, which is.
Oh, good. Is tonight the superficial stuff?
Usually, yeah.
Is that what this is segueing to?
Right. Low brain energy.
Well, tonight I had an interviewer go, so you were living in your van. What do you drive now? A car. Well, let me ask you something kind of philosophical, kind of metaphysical, kind of out there. I went, okay. So they say that cars are the extension of a man's penis. How would that relate to you? What? I said, if you want to get philosophical, I think there's many more things you can read a metaphysical meaning into, something better than a car. He's like, well, I mean, I'm just trying to ask you a question. I'm like, what's the point of the question? I don't get what this has to do with anything.
1, 2, dragons as clouds, one shroud, mystery for me to see decided. Hide it. 1, 2 steps to get you going. Green is showing. The one that's transparent is decided. Hide it. Black, white, no normal fight. Dominance divided. How's it going? Dripping on silk again. I'm skin high skin.
Well, I think that the seeds of dissent are there. As someone who grew up in suburbia and went to the shopping mall, a lot, I think there's a lot of people out there who just know that things aren't right, and from the power relationships in their high schools and junior highs to the way that transcends into the workplace, and the relationships of dominance and subjugation the seeds are planted early on. For our part, that's why we're in the ring, swinging. Culture's an important, culture and politics are one, and if people pay attention and to. I think the bands, irregardless of their lyrical content or whatever, are political, and whether it's preaching a doctrine of fast girls and fast cars, which has an impact on their audience, or whether it's talking about the injustices in the Mumia Abu Jamal trial, that has an impact too.
Free Mumia Abu Jamal! Free Mumia Abu Jamal! Free
We've been lied to a lot since during the Cold War age. And what else can you buy that isn't owned by, Ralston Purina or General Dynamics or whatever? It's too difficult to consume. But they'll market, responsible consumption to people who think that's an issue. But it never changes.
Those guys all had integrity. They wrote what they wanted to write, and they didn't give a shit what anybody thought. And there's something cavalier about that. But then you had all those hair metal bands. You had, even though they don't like to be lumped into it, Bon Jovi, Winger, Whitesnake, Dokken, and the music was for the times, because that part of the late 80s into the early 90s, into about 1991, it was all about excess. And that music was excess. It was totally inauthentic, and it was hard for, Joe or Mary Six-Pack sitting in a house in Ohio watching Bret Michaels catwalking along the stage to Unskinny Bop and Where's My Life, right?
I decided a long time ago that I had a real healthy disrespect for the whole scene. That basically if I could make recordings and play gigs and pay my rent, then that was really enough. That was more than enough, you know. A lot of people can't play music for a living. They have to keep their day job. So I guess I was always blessed maybe with being happy where I am, you know. I never really had the rock star dream, you know. In fact, it kind of creeps me out, though, you know, being implicated in that whole thing.
I remember when the video for Smells Like Teen Spirit came on, and I was in a music store somewhere, and in that period there'd always be a bank of TVs and videos playing, whether it was a video that's playing in store or whatever, and that video came on and it was just so, what is this? What is this? I don't know what this is, but I want to know more about it. You know, I had a friend and he said something to me that Nirvana put all the hair metal bands out of business the day that Smells Like Teen Spirit came out, and I believe him.
What's lacking in a lot of the music today is that there's no real passion for playing music, you know. You get bands that go out there and, you know, you're making bag salads in the van. You get a fucking Ziploc bag and throw in a head of lettuce and cut up a carrot, and that's all you eat for a couple days. And, you know, nowadays bands, like, they do their van tour. Yeah, we did a van tour, you know. Did a van tour, and, you know, we only got like $250 a night. It's like, what the hell are you talking about, you know? I think it was the love of playing music, you know, and that it was fun.
That's it, yeah.
And a lot of bands these days just don't get it. They just don't. They just want to make the video, and they want to be on the major label, and you know, if it works out, cool, you know, that's great, whatever.
And also,
but like, don't go bitching about, you know, there's not enough pizza on the bus tonight. You know, there's not, you know, we didn't get any pimento loaf in the dressing room.
The sound that he was creating was different than everybody else, and that's what made him so remarkable.
Are we ready? I'm sorry.
I think Moby was a genius. I mean, when he put out the Play album, that album, I worked in a record store, and every time I would play a song off that CD, I would sell another copy, because people would look up and be like, what is this?
But if I look at the course of my life, I've always gone through these cycles of like doing one thing, turning my back on it, doing the next thing, turning my back on it, doing the next thing. And I mean, like, I started out when I was, 12 years old, listening to the Doors and the Rolling Stones and Led Zeppelin. Then I became a punk rocker when I was 15. Then 18 or 19 got into hip hop, and then got into house music, and got into dancehall reggae, and I got into techno, and now I'm getting into speed metal and punk rock. But I've sort of made peace with it, recognizing that it's all one, you know, big musical miasma, and to be honest, I like everything.
We are a great generation of parents who were divorced. We were the last generation of trying to figure it out on our own, I think.
It's really tough when the whole structure of the family is sort of decayed away, you know. And I think that's, you know. And I mean, I grew up in a house without a dad, you know. I mean, it definitely has its drawbacks. You know, a lot of people I know have, you know. So it's, I mean, I think it contributes to a lot of emptiness in a lot of people.
All my friends had these picture-perfect, preppy lifestyles, you know, with the Hillary Clinton-looking mom and the dad who would go work on Wall Street at 6 o'clock in the morning, come home at 9 o'clock at night, and swim team and skiing and country clubs and tennis lessons, and then me on the other hand had, you know, a pot-smoking mom who was a painter. And so I was always, who would date guys who worked in gas stations. And I was so jealous of, you know, the seeming perfection that my friends had. In retrospect, it turns out their lives were completely messed up. And, you know, their moms were addicted to Valium, and their sisters and brothers were going to Betty Ford and running away to join communes, and their dads were alcoholics, and it was completely dysfunctional. But from my perspective, I was like, oh, it's perfect. You know, their carpets are clean, and the golden retriever's healthy and just been treated for ringworm.
I guess these are some of the reasons why music got a little bit darker, maybe a bit more on the angry side in the early 90s, but still, it was, you needed that because it was, we were getting expression, we were getting conversation, we were getting meaningful lyrics, meaningful music, but it was also really hooky, and it was loud, and it was just excellent.
Maybe it's not so much of a slacker generation as a we don't care anymore generation, or we do care, but we're gonna put our like strengths elsewhere. You know, we're gonna put our efforts elsewhere.
Clinton's answer on the whole censorship thing or whatever was so much better. The other day I was watching God's channel, you know, Pat Robertson or whatever his name is, Jesus himself, whoever. And I was sitting there, it was like 4 o'clock in the morning, and it was, you know, the 7,000 Club or whatever it is, and I'm sitting there with my girlfriend, and we're kind of in an afterglow kind of thing. We're just sitting there watching TV and, you know, having the proverbial cigarette, and this guy comes on, we're flipping through the channels, and this guy comes on, and he's like, now just look at the Satan worshiper that is on my screen coming up. He's in this band 9 Inch Nails, back when I was in the Nails. And look at the skull-like haircut he's got, promoting, you know, skulls, and, you know, and it's a picture of me. Whoa. Picture of me screaming head like a hole. And I'm like, honey, am I a Satan worshiper? I didn't notice. Am I bad?
Even when we were like doing our own record label, we got stopped from like putting albums out. We got album covers censored. We got you know, taken off numerous festival bills when people found out what kind of politics we had and what we were likely to say on their stage, that sort of thing. That's always happened to us. I mean, what happened with Letterman is that because we did this thing and we changed the words in a song, which is something we always do anyway, and because we changed them at the last minute and said something like obviously political, and they were suddenly like, the first thing they were saying was like, look, please, I'm sorry, you know, we can't show it like that. Can you come downstairs and we'll keep the audience back and we'll record it again? Because it actually records like 3 hours earlier. And like, you know, we're like, no, that's what we do. If you don't want to show it, fine, don't show it. Because we knew that if they didn't show it, us actually talking to people about them not showing it might not sell records, but for us it's like, it's great.
You know, I always think of Bill Clinton in the 90s. I think of him on the Arsenio Hall show with the saxophone. And when I look back to the 90s, I think of change.
Our budget surplus this year will be the largest in history.
The economy was good in the early 90s, right? We had come out of a recession. I remember it well as a kid. The times were good.
The remaining surplus is expected to be almost $1.5 trillion.
Okay, you're here in Washington. Today the GOP celebrated their contract with America. What's your opinion or feelings on this?
The contract on America, you know, it's just more lies and BS. You know, in general, I feel the Democrats and Republicans are just selling the same big lie. You know, they both got a big bag full of dog do, and one of them's blue and one of them's red, and they're selling them, you know. Their only real plan is save ass. You know, the Republicans want to save ass anybody that ever voted for us or anybody that ever gave us money. We're gonna keep what you got. And the Democrats got the same thing. Nobody, you know, these idiots, idiots. And one thing, you know, got to have a constitutional amendment to balance the budget. You don't need a constitutional amendment to balance the budget. What you need to do is get column A to agree with column B. You don't have to have, you know, we want to have less government, but more laws. You know, we got to have more laws. We got to have an amendment to you know, have limit terms. I say vote them out.
all about going out and getting CDs, 100%.
We listen to music a couple of different ways, and I think about the CD booklets. You know, remember you put all the CDs, you take them out of the case, you put them in a booklet, and if you were going on a trip, you would want to have that book of CDs with you, and you really had to think about what you wanted to listen to. And you were trying to make these mixes great, and coming up with a track listing, there was creativity attached to it. It wasn't just a playlist that you tip tap and do. It was something that you actually had to think about.
And it was all about sales. You know, a band could count on money from record or CD sales. And then you'd go on tour and make even more money. And that carried on through the 90s, absolutely, because we were still buying, we were buying our favorite bands' CDs and vinyl and cassettes because it was the only way. It was the only option we had.
Hungry for it, we had a lot of drive and determination. And we weren't going to let anybody stop us from getting to what we wanted to do, which was our main goal, which was to sell, well, not sell records, but to make records. The selling part we were naive about. We didn't think about how many records we would sell. We just thought about, let's make this record. Let's make it good, Everything else happened after, and we were surprised by it. So, your fantasy became a reality, and you have to learn how to accept that step by step. Some people take it too fast and end up ruining themselves. We thought, we can let this ruin us, or we could keep it solid and take it to the next level after this one.
You do your first album, you don't have the pressures of having to do a follow-up or anything like that. You get successful, it gets harder and harder and harder and harder, so it becomes a little bit of everything. You got luck to try to stay in the game, skills to try to stay in the game, everything. It ain't as easy as it seems.
I feel like I've been a rebel musically, but not purposely. I mean, I didn't say, okay, this is going on, and well, I like this about that and that about that, and I don't sit down and calculate all these little things, and this would be cool if I wore that, if I did that. I just kind of go along with what I want, It doesn't always work. But I don't think I could be happy any other way. And Lord knows I would have been in 10 different bands right now if I would have followed every little trend, I would have started out in a new wave band and then worked myself up to a metal band, which is now a bad word, right? Heavy metal's a bad word now. But I don't know what I'd be doing right now. I just can say that musically, I have to do what I like, And I was infatuated with this, thinking of the great sounds, orchestrations, which people just don't do. There's so much great untapped things you could do with this. And that's what drew me to it. When the Stray Cats first started and we had a stand-up bass, you have to remember that 15 years ago when we started, no one had heard the word rockabilly. And no one had saw a stand-up bass on stage. Probably 15 years, 20 years, it was really cool to have that out front, and look at that drummer, he's standing up, and it was all unique, but it was things that worked. It wasn't for the novelty of it. I just thought, in my mind, that's what worked. Part of it came from, that drummer's sitting behind the drum set with 5,000 drums and 3,000 cymbals. That's so pretentious. 20-minute drum solos. So in my mind, it worked like we're gonna get a guy to stand up and play 2 drums. It was the antithesis of that, and get a stand-up bass player and get him to slap it like they used to, like Bill Haley's bass player. What happened to that sound? Why did that sound ever disappear? Just because it was old and it happened before doesn't mean that you have to throw it away. You can recycle that sound. I mean, that's a great sound. So I try and keep a lot of the old stuff that sounds good, and just make it new. It's the only way I can explain it.
Confusion, another illusion. Starts with the two.
Oh yeah, Kurt, really appreciate that. Get up here, kick your butt.
The one thing that most people have a really bad time with understanding or just thinking is that if you're in a band, you automatically have a lot of money. No. Maybe some bands, I don't know what they do, whatever, but no, Like I was saying before, you know, at the end of the day, it's like, and that's not true. It's really a lot of hard work. If music is supposed to be genuine, and if it's not genuine and you know really why someone's doing it or how they did it, or if someone else is writing their songs or what they did to get there or whatever, if human beings have any kind of like heart or anything, soul or anything, I bet there'd be a lot of people that they would probably be banished. We won't say any names though, will we?
No.
Hi.
I know.
Indecision, using the attraction, dance with chance. Just fun.
There's no place in North America that I can think of that would be as bountiful as Seattle was.
Radio stations and video stations pumping the same thing down your throat every day, 500 times a week. It's really hard to be a singular voice, you know, or to stick out one in 5,000. So to me, the voice of a generation, all that stuff's sort of ended in the late 70s, when music kind of took a turn for the worst throughout the 80s. And thankfully, it's gone back to the way it was in the 60s and the 70s with real, honest rock and roll and just playing it for music's sake. But like I said, there's just too many bands. And the way we kind of fit in there is we just do the music and we don't really dress up for anybody's pleasure, and we don't do anything that's you know, it's going to kind of sell us tickets or sell us records or anything. We just do the music, you know.
If you have something to say, then I think right there it's important for you to make some kind of connection. It's important to feel the connection. If you're just making pop music and you don't care if it's shared or not, then I mean it depends on the individual, you know.
Yeah.
It's the height of grunge, and they are wearing flannel. And, you know, that's just how it was at the time. People were wearing flannel. We all had flannel shirts, and too, the cuffs were probably undone. Chatty jeans, you know, and yeah, the gimmick was to not have a gimmick, if I can quote the movie Singles.
I want to see something that will offend you. See the movie The Big Chill. That'll piss you off. I saw that movie. It's like, fuck you. I go, you weren't dancing around, you know, some kitchen, picking up the dishes, romanticizing, you know, your participation in some war protest, while now you're wearing furs and you're all like driving BMWs. And no, anyone who was right on in the 60s was probably listening to the Velvet Underground or the Mothers of Invention or Sun Ra or the Fugs, and they weren't listening to all that crap, Three Dog Night and all that. I mean, Motown was somewhat great, you know, whatever. There's some cool stuff from that. There's a lot of crap from Motown. And I'm tired of these things being presented as anthems for a generation that meant something. These are anthems for a generation that want to believe their youth meant something. It didn't. They all had friends who did something.
I think Seattle was the center of it because people didn't have anything to do. When it's gray outside and it's raining, November through to April, and you are young and you are creative and you're wanting to create music, what a great time to, you know, decide that you want to create that art, whether it's music or visual. And so I feel that all of those great bands from Seattle, they had time and they wanted to play their music and create music, but there were also so many great places in Seattle for people to play concerts.
Here's somebody who's shamelessly trying to line you up, I think. Would you, I don't mean that really, would you be willing to lobby on the Endangered Species Act next year during the reauthorization process on Capitol Hill?
Well, yes, I would, as a matter of fact, because I think it's going to be important. I think endangered species, the whole issue on endangered species is a much larger one than just the phrase allows. I mean, if you're talking about the spotted owl, I can well see that the average person is going to think when the political opposition to endangered species starts to mount its attack and tries to put it in the context of, do you want jobs or do you want to save this thing called the spotted owl on a branch? Well, of course it's going to have a kind of a negative impact, but for me the issue of endangered species ties to the larger, more important issue of our relationship to the natural environment.
And there's also this stereotype of me that I'm a very angry person, you know, that I'm like really evil because I'm a chick with a big mouth, and you know, that sort of follows. So it's also just me kind of explaining that I'm maybe not as angry as people think. I'm just, I don't know, I'm just driven or something, I don't know. Because I'm the ultimate indie chick, right? And I'm the girl who won't sign a record deal, and I'm kind of, that's part of my MO. People think that I'm very judgmental about everybody else, you know, and their deals and their, and, you know, I'm really not. I mean, there are people who work behind the counter in the bank, and there are people who work for Dow Chemical, you know, cleaning the floor in the office or what. I mean, we all have to get by, and we all have to come up with our own answers.
Still, but it's generally still the boys' club, you know. I mean, really, sure, you know.
It has
you know,
everything. Everyone establishes their own pecking order.
Yeah,
There's even
like
a
a
pecking
pack,
order.
you know?
There's a pecking order amongst the misfits. You know.
Yeah,
what I
right,
mean?
exactly.
But I mean, high school is so far removed.
Yeah,
I'm so
I may be
glad
a
it's
loser.
gone, and I don't. I would never want to go back.
In every crowd of losers, there's always the biggest loser.
King of the losers.
A lot of bands who we saw who came out and were alternative in the beginning, you know, and Goo Goo Dolls is a really good example. Dizzy Up the Girl, a little more alternative, I think, is how they were considered. But then by the early 2000s, no, they were, moms loved Goo Goo Dolls. They fell in love with Johnny Resnick, you know, and they had a lot of really awesome radio-friendly songs at the time.
When I was living in this house in the country in the mountains for such a long period of time, I feel like I got really strong, I guess, for the first time in my life, and more stronger and more confident than I had been before. And I guess that sort of allowed me to not worry so much about what other people thought, like especially as a young songwriter. I don't think a couple years ago I would have allowed myself to write a song like Ice Cream because I would have thought it was trite or silly and nobody would take me seriously. So I guess I just got to the point where I sort of said, I don't really care anymore whether people take me seriously or not. I like it and I know where it comes from, and that's enough for me. Well, that was a period of adjustment, and also it was winter. It was, you know, it was minus 35 every day. It was terribly cold, and because there was me in this little house, and then there was the earth. There was, you know, the beautiful river behind me, and 3 feet of snow all around me, and trees and sky. It was very in tune with nature, and I sort of, in retrospect, I feel like I must have sort of been in hibernation or something, because I couldn't write a thing for about 3 or 4 months, and then when spring came, everything opened up. I sort of, everything blossomed. I mean, everything came alive, and I started writing then, and I guess, you know, sort of there it was spring, everything was being born, and all these songs came out really easily.
Sarah McLachlan did something that no other artist really could do, which was create an all-female lineup of artists for One Day Lilith Fair, and I still remember going to the first one because I think they wanted to try it out to see what people would think.
Held in her hand all the things she understands. She was different than the other girls.
I liked it because she called the shots. It wasn't some dude in a corner office. She came out and she's like, I want to do a festival. I'm going to pick the artists. And it wasn't, I don't care about the audience. It was, I think my audience is going to care about these artists.
I went through sort of a premature midlife crisis at 18. I didn't want to go into college. I was tired of traveling around, and I felt since a child very pushed to do something. I would say it would be similar to what a bird must feel like when they know they need to fly south. But I didn't know which direction was south. And it pushed me. I lived in Colorado and Hawaii and a bunch of different places. Ended up in San Diego where my mother was, hoping I'd find a sense of peace maybe, or rest. And that's when I got all those waitressing jobs. And I realized that, you know, we're often asked not what makes us happy, but how are we going to make a living? So our passions become our hobbies. And luckily I was raised singing from age 6 and barroom since I was 8. But even at 18, after all that years of experience, I never thought that I could make a living doing it. And then I thought, well, what about when you're 18 and you haven't been raised singing? Or when you're 40 and you realize what you're doing you hate? And then you have to start cultivating a talent, a passion. It's hard. And I finally got fired from my last job and said, okay, I have to do something I love because I can't. It's hard not to feel responsible for things. You know, as a kid you grow up with, you want to change things. And there's a very strong 60s and 70s resurgence now where kids are wanting to have walkouts again and sit-ins, but it's not the same time, you know. I think it's really a time for individual stands to say I personally don't know how to solve the pollution problem. In fact, I hate the thought of recycling. It boggles my mind. And I don't know how to solve the the political problem, but all I know how to is make my life every day, like a little sit-in and go, okay, I can't live with these things in my life anymore. And one of those things for me was living without my sense of passion or my sense of purpose. And that's when I started living in my van and singing every day.
A lot of musical acts come from a different, whether they're, you know, protege of somebody else or whether they're working with a bunch of schemers at a record company, or whether in our situation, you know, it was a classic garage band thing. And what really happens that people don't see is that we all sit on a bus or a van or a plane all day, and we all live within the same conditions, and we all put the same amount of effort into just getting up on that stage. Who ends up in the photo shoot, or, you know, whether we all sit around and take pictures together all day, I mean, that's kind of the dirty work in a way. And, you know, it becomes very self-conscious for me if I have to exploit my face more than these guys just to, you know, get the story out there. So I actually end up I remember me and Carl had a fight about who should be in the video more last time we made a video, and I was like, take my shot of me out and get Carl in there, and Carl's like, no, get me.
There's plenty of me, man.
When I was a tiny kid and I used to just sort of draw massive cars with wonderfully big aerofoils and huge wheels, or you know, or and then I moved into Lego, and then I got a guitar, and it's all the same thing really. To me, it's the same thing. I'm lucky to be able to put the energy, this energy into those things, and being given the chance to do it like we all are. You know, it's completely selfish. You know, it's the way I deal with things, which is a bit crap as well.
So can you tell us how you got your name, and if these people ever make it to shows?
What, the blowfish, the hoodie thing? Yeah, Darius was an asshole in college.
I was a jerk in college. I used to give people nicknames that they didn't like, and one guy had big eyes, and I called him a Hootie, and the other guys had really big Dizzy Gillespie cheeks, and I called him the Blowfish. And when they walked into a party one night, I said Hootie and the Blowfish. And you know, the funny thing is I haven't seen those guys in 5 years. I'd love to see them. I mean, they live in Atlanta. They live like 3 hours from me. We play Atlanta, and I'd love to see those guys. I haven't seen them in like 5 years. Yeah.
I'd like to meet them.
Yeah, man.
I've never even met these guys. They might hate me.
I know they might ask him for some money.
You know, I think Hootie and the Blowfish worked because it was happy music, right? It was, I only want to be with you, and simple songs.
You know, it's so funny because, you know, people always, you know, the people that come down on us always, you know, say we're not, you know, alternative or because we're trying to be. But, you know, the prime example of that is somebody saying, you know, we're not that deep because we're not. We write pop songs. We write 4-minute pop songs. And if it's 4 minutes, it might be too long. You might want to cut something out of it, you know? And we're not alternative, and we don't claim to be, and we're not cool, and we're not hip, you know? We just write pop songs. And as long as people take us for what we are and don't try to put us somewhere else and then say what we are, you know, I think they'll like us because we're not trying to be anything but what Hootie and the Blowfish, and Hootie and the Blowfish write pop songs.
Those songs were great. Like, they were catchy pop songs, and they didn't hurt anybody, and I always love a good pop song.
It's not just big corporate bands, it's not just Hootie and the Blowfish, you know, or some band that's being pushed, you know, down everybody's throat. You know, there's a zillion other things out there, and that you know, you got to keep those channels open, otherwise they're gonna close. They're gonna close down. I'm gonna be forced to go up the hills, form the Rebel Alliance, start an armed insurrection. Is that what you want? Is that what you want me to do?
When we first started writing together, we found a common ground in a kind of darkness, I suppose, to a certain extent, and we wanted to make a pop record, essentially. That was our first and foremost desire, that could be played and enjoyed on a surface level, and then give it some weight if it endured repeated listening. So when we were writing, we kind of kept that in mind, that we wanted to bring some kind of depth and some kind of feeling to enhance what was happening musically. As regards words, I think it just was whatever came out of our bodies at the time. We all contribute to lyrics, but I am the master editor, if you like. I get to make them mine. They have to mean something to me. So I steal their ideas and work them up into these little songs.
We got a special guest with us this evening. He's going to come out and drop some shit for y'all. Ladies and gentlemen, from Public Enemy, Chuck D.
That's right, if you truly believe in peace, put the two fingers in the air. Put the two fingers in the air. And you put the two fingers together. You know what that means? That means peace and togetherness. That's right. And until we get proper education, control over economics, and proper treatment from the law, then you will see everybody will truly be equal. All right? So I'm going to tell you.
It was really just completely organic, the musical development of the band. I mean, we didn't intend to use cellos, and so that, but it's just like what we've always tried to do is to be sonically adventurous within the context of a punk rock lineup. With the Sex Pistols lineup, we've tried to make a lot of different broader sounds and things like that.
The Sex Pistols an influence?
On me, definitely. That's why I started playing guitar, because I couldn't do the Jimmy Page stuff, but I could play Anarchy in the UK, and so that was a big motivation right there. Yeah.
Well, I am obsessed by the sunlight because I live in England, and of course everyone knows there's no sun in England very much, so it feels the best part about our success, and the best part about how, if I could assimilate our success into any terms, is when we play to our audience, I feel part of something, like I never felt part of anything, part of a whole thing, and people are united by that. And I'm not a hippie by any means, but I think that's a cool thing, I think that's a good state of affairs. Bearing in mind how much hatred and disgust there is everywhere, there's nothing wrong with a little bit of people being pulled together by something they like, something they have in common.
If you could explain why certain sound waves are doing certain things to people's brain waves, I don't know if science can do that yet. I don't think that it's really easy to describe why a major chord makes you feel sort of hopeful and triumphant when there's this. That's what I like about music. That's why I got into it, is because it's not within the easy grasp of analytical thought.
Universality of rhythm, it just sort of makes sense because the universe does seem to be, at least on a Newtonian level, kind of a big repetitive place, you know, where it's like cycles constantly repeating. So it makes sense that we respond to that, as opposed to just like arbitrary chaos. You know, nothing terrifies human ears more than chaos. we like structure, and the universe on an observable level seems to support that.
The music is like another form of telepathy that's just like I can make some sounds and I'll be feeling some emotions, and then maybe you'll feel those feelings also. And so it kind of skips a lot of the right brain, like analytical stuff that we tend to get real tangled up in Western society, because it's just coming directly. It's just like a transfer of emotion or feeling. So that's...
I know that in shamanism, I was adopted by an American Indian family, that the Indian way, not like legal adoption, when I was about 14, and they use drumming to... There's a reflex in your brain, I forget the name of it, and if it gets given a constant noise, it'll tune out and it won't pay attention to it anymore. And that's what they use drumming for, is to kind of hypnotize or distract your brain. So that might be part of it. It might tap you into other parts of yourselves. But also it's very primordial rhythm. I mean, it's probably it's our heartbeat. It's the beginning of probably the universe rhythm. And I think it talks to people in a very deep way.
I remember playing before I remember doing anything else. The particular piano that I have on the road with me, I have different feelings for than other pianos. I've played a lot of pianos, I guess you could say, in my lifetime. And it's hard to explain if you don't play an instrument what your relationship can be with an instrument.
Tori Amos, Little Earthquakes, my God, that is one of the finest albums of the 90s. It's one of my top 5 favorites from the 90s, 100%. Right up there with Pearl Jam. Tori Amos, just beautiful music, absolutely. You know, and I hear people like, I hear younger female artists who are coming out today who I think maybe spent a bit of time also listening to Tori Amos.
I think that one thing about America is that it doesn't like to own the fact that it is a dominating country. It's very much, I'd say, in the S&M realm of countries. And it's definitely the sadist. And it's an interesting sadist, because when you think about sadists, you think about the dominatrixes that, have the very tall heels and bring people to their knees. And to me, this is a dominatrix, and we adore her, but that looks more like, she's dressed herself like Jackie Kennedy. So, she's very sophisticated, and she's like, hi, how are you? And this is not about Jackie Kennedy, this is taking on an image. And we like everybody to think that we're the nice hostess. And that's where it's a bit dangerous, because you let your guard down. And in truth, America is very much about being the dominatrix. She's just got a very nice suit on.
I think a lot of people make a mistake of making music to try to fit into a square peg or a square hole, or You know what I'm saying? Okay, grunge is really popular, so I'm going to make my voice sound like, you know, and that's sad because, I mean, you probably could, if you really listened to, you know, the music that was inside your head, or wherever, it probably would sound a lot better than you're trying to, like, sort of fit into a scene. We've kind of crippled ourselves probably commercially by just making a music that doesn't fit into any particular scene right now. I think we're really messed up as far as that goes. We can't easily say like we fit into this scene or that scene. There's just nowhere for us.
One of the best bands ever to come out of Sacramento is Cake. It's quirky. It was fun. I feel like they never took themselves too seriously.
Yes, there's definitely a benefit to experiencing and surviving pain, although I would caution everyone to not put too much weight on thinking that pain is the only conduit for art, because I think it's a common misconception that artists have to suffer to be productive, when that's not true. You can be productive from pain, you can also be productive from happiness, and I think that both are great resources and should be both used.
So do you believe your musical inspiration comes from you, or like some people tell us, it comes through you from somewhere else?
Shit. I don't know. Music to me is just like, yeah. I mean, I don't know where it really comes from. I think that most people who make music, most people who make art and stuff, any kind of artistic output, you don't know where it comes from. I think that people who make that any type of artistic output are as surprised at what they're making as anybody else is that's listening to it. It's almost like the person who's making is just kind of listening to it also. It's just and it's easy for artists to kind of claim that and you get their ego flowing off it and just be like, yeah, I did that, you know, because a lot of people are excited about it or whatever, but I don't know where the fuck it comes from. You know, just get into a groove and just some music starts coming out of you. Some days it just doesn't.
It's very important for me to feel 100% comfortable. I think with building our own studios, it really allowed us to take a lot of performance chances in our performances that we wouldn't necessarily take in a studio that we were paying top dollar in, because you tend to rely on the things that you know are going to work rather than stretch out and try different things. And for me, vocally, it was a world of difference because there was fresh air and light, and, you know, there wasn't a group of rock and roll guys smoking cigarettes and watching Spinal Tap over and over. So it was good.
I realized it was what I wanted to do when I was about 20, and I just picked up from where I was, jumped on my motorcycle and drove 5 hours to another city and went there on a mission to get in a band and to be where I am today. I mean, it's really weird. It's like when you find what you're supposed to do with your life, just everything inside of you, your whole being, just like wants it really, really bad, and you'll do whatever it takes. And you have blinders on, you don't see anything else. It's just like tunnel vision, you know. We just wanted music that meant something, you know, lyrically and, you know, musically, you know, that the feeling behind the notes and the feelings and the emotions behind the words that are created. I think we were all just bored with ear candy, you know, and I think that is like an insult to our generation when people think that all they want to think about is nothing. And I think that's ridiculous. I think my generation's wants much more than that.
Always an outspoken person, always the person taking charge and trying to get something done and not letting anybody tell me what to do. And it got me in a lot of trouble, and it got me where I am right now too. And that comes out with my stage presence. And so being a vocalist, it's just something I always wanted to do. I always wanted to I'd see bands play or something. I remember seeing like Kiss when I was young and just going, man, I want to be Gene Simmons, you know, I gotta be him. And then I remember going and seeing Eric B. and Rakim and KRS-One and Dougie Fresh like in 84 or 85 and going, man, I want to be doing that, man. Look at those people going crazy, you know, and I can do that, you know, and everybody's like, shut up, man, I can do that, you know, I can, you know, just people just didn't accept it, and I was like, always wanting to cross over. And I can't just do this kind of band, I want to mix everything, I gotta mix it up for years, man. And then Rage came out, and I was like, oh man, I've been trying to do this forever, and I just still kept trying to get people to do it, and me be able to do different vocal styles. And then I tried it with a couple bands, it didn't work, and then finally I got together and formed Limp Bizkit. You know, I found Sam, and then me and Sam took John from the band, and we went through guitar players, and we found Wes, and took him from his band, and took Lethal from House of Pain. And now it's like I can do everything. If I want to sing and get emotional and just be on that vibe, and the band can pull it out of their ass and play something that I can flow with. If I want to bust out something and freak it and be hip hop, they do it.
Ain't no sense so bad, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, to me, white trash is more kind of like a fashion statement these days, you know what I mean? I was looking through a Details magazine just the other day, which is a strange magazine because the women in there are ugly and the guys are pretty. But anyway, I was looking through the Details, and it had like all this white trash, and you know, it's just basically throw on a Naugahyde coat or a polyester leisure suit and you're white trash, you know what I mean? I think that'll do though, you know, that translates well, everybody can get into it. But, you know, because I mean, there's a lot of things about white trash that, you know, aren't that much fun, but then there's a lot of things that are a lot of fun, you know what I mean? So, I don't know, but it seems to be popular, you know what I mean? That whole white trash thing. We play it up. But I mean, my dad made mobile homes, man. Hers bottled like knee-high grape soda.
And I live in there.
And he lives in a trailer, so, you know, we came by our credentials honestly, you know?
It really wasn't until like, what, 1998, 1999 when the wall fell, if you will, with these big, massive corporations. Because you could be a band and you could easily sell 1 million copies in a week. That never happens anymore.
A lot of people say rock is dead, and I think maybe some guitar rock has got lame. It's post Nirvana and the Pumpkins. There were a million grunge bands that popped up, and some were really good and some were not very good. And I think that you just get inundated with it so much that it becomes boring, or becomes a cliche. And now music's kind of moving in some new directions, and I mean, even what we're doing, just using a sampler to bring in electronica or hip hop or techno elements, whatever. A lot of people are doing that. We didn't invent that, but it's a new way to twist it, you know, twist everything up and kind of try and make it sound fresh again. I don't think it's ever going to go away. I think that people still love a guitar. Kids love guitars, you know. It's very visceral. It's just you grab it and it makes noise. It's very primitive in a way too, you know. It's not the same as having to learn a Bach piano solo or something. It's just you just start thrashing on it and it makes noise and it bugs your parents, you know. So when you're young, that's what you want to do. You want to bug your parents. And I think something's going to roar back in a couple of years. There's going to be some rock band that's going to take everybody by surprise and blow everybody away. You don't know who it is or what it's going to sound like, but it'll be rock and roll.
Where does your creativity come?
I'm insane. I'm totally insane. I just, you know, ever since I was little, I just see things and I look for who's lying, what kind of scam is going on here, you know.
Secondhand smoke kills 20,000 Americans every year.
Secondhand smoke has not killed one person. You know, it may lead to early death. You know, if you're 65 years old and you die, secondhand smoke didn't kill you. You were going to die anyway. You know, I think, you know, we have this giant myth in America that somehow if you eat right and you exercise and you do everything right, you're going to live forever. You aren't. You're still going to die. Everybody's going to die. You're going to die. I wrote a song called Still Going to Die. It doesn't matter what you do. I'm willing to trade 5, 10, even 15 or 20 years. I'm going to eat what I want, drink, smoke, do what I want. I'm going to die happy. I'm not going to die, you know, thin and exercising. To me, a Soul Effects ain't nothing but a very expensive hat rack.
I don't know if it's necessarily evil. I think it's just frightening because we don't know what it is. There's a theory that time is speeding up and that we will actually reach the end in something like 2012 or something. Some guy in California has produced a whole load of theories I was reading about. And it sort of fits in, really, the way that human progress has accelerated technologically faster and faster to a terrific pace. I mean, in the old days, people just got old. What happens now is your life is measured in technology. You know, you can remember when CDs first came, you remember when videos first came, you remember God knows what. I mean, that's another funny thing, is the drive towards artificial intelligence in mankind is very, very strong. We're compelled to try and come up with something that's as smart as we are. Another thing we may do, you know, is actually that we will die out, but we'll replace ourselves. We will create our own replacement, which will be some kind of rather implacable, stern, moralistic, but totally upright sort of androids or something like that, who will wander around and they won't have any fun, but they won't do any harm.
None of us in radio, we didn't see it coming. David Bowie, I think, was the only person who saw it coming. He's the one who famously said, you know what, the internet, it's really going to change things for the music industry. I guess in the early 2000s, when I saw my first iPod, a friend in the industry, in the record industry, oddly enough, she had an iPod, and I'd never seen. I was like, "What is this?" And then you started to hear about the layoffs. We started to hear more about Napster, Sean Fanning, and you know, file sharing, things like that. But I do remember, because I was music director at a radio station in the early 2000s, and I remember hearing about the layoffs that were happening in the record industry. You know, because there was a clear shift in the way that people were either getting their music, not necessarily paying for it, but how they were getting their music.
I think the record companies were caught off guard. I think they didn't take streaming seriously at the time, and they could have controlled that too, but they didn't. You know, it wasn't until kids were figuring out LimeWire and stuff and downloading thousands of songs that, you know, the FBI gets involved, and then, you know, famously, you know, Lars Ulrich from Metallica calling out Napster. And you know what? If I was Lars Ulrich too, I'd probably have done the same thing, because nobody was equipped for that change. It was this change that was fundamental, because it went from brick and mortar to on a computer pipe.
Yeah, this is a good time. We're all living it up, and we can still enjoy ourselves even with the fact that. Just around the corner are some pretty difficult times. I don't think there's any reason to stop enjoying ourselves just because the conclusion to all this technology, the logical sort of outcome of what's going on, of all this good stuff that we're experiencing, is death. I mean, we can still have a good time, can't we? I mean, why bother to, I mean, it's just nature. It's like a red tide sort of thing. We're doing so well that we have to kill ourselves, but that you don't have to let that destroy your mood for the day.
You gotta take what you can. No sense holding back in. You gotta take what you can. No sense holding back in. No, it's all say a lie. What you do to survive becomes more like a crime. Someone said easy pay. If she's feeling the same, who cares what they say?